Today, I'm going to go where few adoption content creators will dare to go. And we're going to talk about some of the really hard questions that adoptive parents ask themselves in that first 6 months to a year of their placement. Some of these also apply to current foster parents. And if you haven't fostered or adopted before, some of these things might shock you a little bit or come across really negative, but I can assure you that if you have fostered or adopted, my guess is you've thought at least one of these questions before, if not all of them at one point or another. So are you ready to talk about these? Let's jump in. Before we get started here, if you're new here, my name is Katie and I'm a foster care adoption consultant who works with families from all across the country who want to adopt from foster care or who already have and are struggling with parenting issues after the fact. It is something I'm absolutely passionate about as an adoptive mom myself to 3 kids who are currently ages 8, 11, and 15. And so I make all sorts of content just like this on YouTube. So if that interests you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so we can hang out more. If you want to hear it how it is, hear a real unfiltered look at adoption, you're in the right place. And unfiltered, but also positive. I don't regret adopting, right? I'm glad I did it. I encourage others to do it. I help them do it. But I'm also going to tell it to you like it is. The first question that oftentimes you'll hear foster or adoptive parents ask themselves is, did I make a mistake? And this question can come with thoughts like, what if my child would have been better off elsewhere? What if they would have been better off with the other foster parent they had before, or even with their biological parent than with me? Or I'm guessing that there are other adoptive parents out there who have their stuff way more together than I do, so maybe I'm just not the right person for this kid. And while there are situations where that can be true, where you might not be equipped to care for a child with specific needs, in a lot of cases, this is just a normal feeling that people have. That feeling of inadequacy. And that can add to under that same question, you might ask yourself, what if I'm not actually cut out for this, right? Did I make a mistake doing this because I'm not really meant to, or I'm not the type of person who seems to be handling this well? And, it's hard because I think it's normal as an adoptive parent to be like, I chose this. I went through all these trainings and home study and all this stuff to get here. And now I'm like, did I make a mistake? And that can be a really hard question to wrestle with. And, not just on the side of, am I really the best fit for this child, but also wondering like, will I ever feel peaceful again? Did I make a mistake? Did I ruin my life and this child's life all in one fell swoop? Again, these are feelings that a lot of adoptive parents have, especially in those early days when things are just so hard. Which brings me to my next question, which is, why is this so difficult? I know when we were getting started in our adoption journey, I'm a researcher, right? I now do that as my job. I research agencies for people. I research parenting strategies for people. I went into adoption probably more prepared than most. I think I started my trainings knowing a lot of the things that they were teaching us in the trainings. I still learned new things, but I noticed, like, compared to other parents that I was in the trainings with, it kind of seemed like to them a lot of this stuff was brand new, and for me I was like, I've already read a couple books about this, like I'm familiar with this concept. So I walked into adoption being like, hey, I'm ahead of the game. Yeah, a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, like I got this, right? I've done all my research, I've done my planning, and then you know what? It hit me like a ton of bricks how hard it was in those first 6 months. Like, you can read all the books and you can do all the things and you're still not going to be fully ready for what adoptive parenting truly entails. And I learned that the hard way. So it is very normal to have that feeling of like, why is this so hard? I thought I would be good at this, right? No one walks into adoption thinking, I don't know, I'll probably be a kind of horrible adoptive parent, right? There's so many roadblocks that would stop you before you get to the point of having a kid if you truly thought you couldn't handle it well. But it is so common for people to bring their kid home and in those first 6 months be like, this is so much harder than I ever imagined. And maybe I knew some of these things would happen, but I thought I was going to be able to handle it better, and I can't handle it as well as I thought. Again, normal. But it can lead to us feeling like there must be something wrong with me. Or sometimes if people are still in that kind of fostering period before they adopt their child, they might say things like, maybe this is the wrong match, and maybe if we just, disrupted this placement and found another child, maybe that would be better and it wouldn't be so hard. And again, there are situations where that can be true. There are times where the child is threatening other children in the home, or, there's been acts of violence or acting out, or all sorts of different things could have happened that could make disrupting a placement a need. I don't encourage people to disrupt placements lightly at all, but I also understand it can happen. But I do think there are times where, people are in those first 6 months to a year and they're thinking like, oh my goodness, like this is so much harder. Maybe it's because it's not the right fit. And while that can be true sometimes, I'm also here to tell you that no matter what child you are placed with, the first 6 months are going to be so hard. If I can look back, those 6 months, both times, because we adopted 2 separate times, like our youngest child we adopted at one time, and then our 2 oldest were siblings that we adopted together. The first 6 months of both of those placements were honestly the hardest times of my life. And they were also filled with a lot of joy and a lot of things I was looking forward to and a lot of really beautiful moments, but they were the hardest months of my life. So I just want to make sure you are aware of that if you are in that phase and it feels like this is harder than anything I've ever done, it just happens. And I will say, now that we're years in, 6 years in with, our older kids, almost 7 with my youngest child. Yeah, all the kids are gonna be saying 6, 7 now. Sorry if your kid is watching this. They probably aren't. Can you tell I have preteens and teens in my house? But now that I'm so far down the road with our adoptions and I see that my kids are doing well now, like yes, we still have our things that they need extra support with. We still have really frustrating behaviors at times. Like we still have struggles, but it's so much more manageable. Like when I think back to the time early on in our placement, I look back and I think, how did we make it through that? It was so hard. So if you're in that season right now, just know it doesn't have to last forever. Hello, am I using this puppy to get your attention? Yes, I am. This is Pippa. I don't know that you guys have met her yet because I took a 2-month break and we got her during that time. So this is Pippa. You know my other dog, Suki, who's right here at my feet. This is her new little friend. And yes, I'm shamelessly using her to get your attention so I can tell you. This video is kindly sponsored by my own adoption support community called Adopt Together. So thank you for watching this video today and clicking on it. I have a free gift for you, and it is actually a training from inside of my group that is normally only available to the members of my community. And it is so relevant to you if you are watching this video. It is all about surviving the first 6 months to a year of your adoptive placement. And I'm gonna walk you through a model that I call adoption shock. And it walks you through the emotions and behaviors you're gonna see from your children in those first several months and the emotions you will be experiencing at each stage. And you'll often find out that the way your child is feeling is very opposite of the way you are feeling. And so you're not on the same page a lot at the beginning, which is why it is so hard. So one of my very favorite trainings, a training that people in the group loved and said they wished it had been a part of their adoption training when they were getting their license in order to adopt from foster care. So don't miss out on it. Free in the description below. So click the link to check that out. All right, back to me talking about other stuff. The third question that a lot of adoptive parents are going to ask themselves is, why is my child rejecting me? And believe me, I get it. There was one of my children, I will not say which one, I might have said this before in another video, but there was a child that when I came home from work every day, after, in those first 6 months to a year, I would try to give that child a hug or try to say hi, and they would yell no or hit me or run away. And it was really hurtful because I was really excited to be home and be able to spend time with them. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna come home. I'm gonna make sure it's really positive from the time I get in the door. I was really being intentional. And every single day, this child would be like, no, hit me, run away, didn't want anything to do with me. But then later in the day would be super clingy, but not in a positive way. And so I just remember feeling like this child is rejecting me as their mom. They don't want me as their mom. And that's really painful because I love them and I don't understand. And I remember just times crying, how can I get this child to feel love towards me or to react in a positive way towards me? And why is it easier with dad than with me? But then I remembered something from my trainings and was reminded of things just listening to podcasts or videos like this. And I remembered that rejection in kids, that it's not really rejection. My child is not really rejecting me in those moments. They're protecting themselves. They've experienced so much pain, heartache, loss regarding caretakers in their lives that they don't trust yet. And so sometimes they actually do love you and they're pushing you away because they don't trust that you will still be there for them. And you know what? Understanding that helped me kind of release some of the feelings that came along with those behaviors. Yes, they were still there. I'm human. I know, we always hear things like adoptive parents need to be regulated all the time, or your kids won't be regulated. Yes, being regulated is wonderful and great, but you are also human. So it's okay if you feel hurt in those moments, but we need to take that feeling of hurt and kind of separate it from what's really going on. Like, you can feel hurt, you can cry, you can be sad, but then we need to step back and say, okay, but the child isn't really rejecting me because they don't like me. They're rejecting me because of things that have happened in their past. And so how can I meet them where they are and have patience with them, that they're not going to overnight just feel super comfortable with me and trust me. And it is hard. There's no way around it. It takes a lot of time. So it's helpful to remember the real reason behind that rejection behavior, but it's also important to understand that you are human. It's okay if you have an emotional reaction to that, but just try not to push that onto the child because they're not really doing it because of anything specifically you have done in most cases. All right, our fourth question that a lot of adoptive parents ask themselves is, why don't I feel the way I thought I would? And this one, friends, is one of the hardest things to come to grips with, because as I mentioned earlier, when we adopt, we planned for this, we wanted this, we desired it, we did work and paperwork, and sometimes we had to pay money to go through trainings and do all these different things. We wanted to do this. And I believe every adoptive parent, when they're walking through that process, they envision what their child will be like, but they also envision what they will be like as parents and how they will feel when they're with their children. And it's very, very easy to say, I want my child so badly. I just can't wait to have a kid in my home so badly that I'll just be so happy when they're here that I will never struggle. And the truth is, that's just not going to happen. Oftentimes, the reality of adoptive parenting does not meet up to the expectations that we had in our minds of ourselves. I'm not just talking about a child. We don't always feel the way we think we should feel or that we expected to. And that could look like struggling to bond with your child. You might find it's not as easy. And oftentimes you do love the child, right? You're making the choices to show your child, I love you. I'm putting you first. I'm putting your needs before mine. I'm taking care of you. I'm getting therapy for you. I'm arranging all these things for you. I'm advocating for you. You do love them in the way that you're acting, but you don't feel that deep connection and attachment inside of your heart. And oftentimes parents who've adopted in the early days, they might feel like, I don't even like being around my child. And this is very hard to admit. I walked through this. This can be associated with post-adoption depression or post-adoption blues, which I do have a video about. I definitely recommend checking that out. But it can be common that you actually find that you don't enjoy being around your child. You don't feel that warm and fuzzy love towards your child yet. And then the guilt that comes from that is so hard to get out of, because nobody wants to say that out loud, and that's why I'm saying it out loud. And I absolutely love my children, but I did struggle with post-adoption blues after each of the adoptions. And, I did therapy, I got support that I needed, and I'm okay now, and I'm doing really well. But it was there, and it was a real feeling, like looking forward to when your kids go to bed and just living the whole day for when they're going to be in bed and you get a moment to yourself, where no one's needing you and no one's having behaviors and no one's acting out and all of those things. So if you are there and you're saying, I don't feel like I thought I would, please know that it's normal. There's nothing wrong with you. It is part of the process of growing attachment. And that's why I always talk about the difference in my videos. I talk about the difference between love and attachment. Loving your child are all those things I said, advocating for them, showing up for them, taking care of them, keeping them safe, providing them what they need, giving them little extra fun things because you care. But attachment comes later, right? Attachment is not that fast. And it's also not fast on your child's end. So you're not going to expect your child to instantly attach with you. Why would you expect yourself to instantly attach Attachment takes a long time to build up between two people, right? And so if you're someone who's not feeling like you thought you would about your child, please know you're not alone. You don't have to feel guilty. It is so common. You are often dealing with really difficult behaviors and attachment issues with your kids, and you're parenting a kid with trauma. It is not for the faint of heart, right? And it is normal to, when your child is acting out constantly and you're just trying and trying to show up for them and they're just constantly not, trusting you or not acting the way they should, it is normal to feel like attachment is hard to build. And all you can do in that moment is just keep showing love, keep showing up and providing in the ways you can, and be easy on yourself. You are showing love to that child every day, even if you don't have those warm and fuzzy attachment feelings yet. And that's okay. You'll get there, I promise. And my last question here, this one hits home, because if you're someone who's struggling with the previous stuff of why am I not feeling like this? Why do I not enjoy being around my kid? Why don't I enjoy parenting? You are probably gonna struggle with this too. Why does everyone else seem to be doing so much better than me at this whole parenting thing? And the number one thing I wanna say is, please do not compare yourself as an adoptive parent to friends of yours who only have biological children. Please do not compare yourself to them. It is a completely different thing. Yes, all parenting is hard, all parenting is challenging, but adoption and trauma adds a whole different layer on top of everything that you just cannot be held to the same scale as someone who carried their child within their body for 9 months before they met them for the first time outside of the womb, right? We don't have that. We have oftentimes kids who have lived years without us, years that we have no idea all the things that they went through and saw and heard, were exposed to. And so if you're comparing yourself to your friends who have biological children, you're like, I see how much they love being around their child and the sun just rises and sets on their child, right? And yes, parenting a biological child is still so challenging and hard, but we cannot compare ourselves because we have this whole added layer, these whole histories we don't know, different life experiences, different personality types melding together, all this adjustment. So please don't compare yourself to them, please. And I'm saying that because I used to compare myself to my friends who had biological children, and it didn't serve me at all. So just don't do it. Just trust me. I'm also going to tell you something else about this. Most adoptive parents are struggling just as much as you are, if not more, but they're not talking about it. People are rarely open and honest about these feelings because they feel horrible. They feel horrible to think these things. We're like this vulnerable child who needs a home, who needs love, who I was so excited to welcome into my family. I feel so blessed to have them. And now I feel like I'm not enjoying it. And I feel like I'm not attaching. And I don't feel the warm and fuzzy feelings. It is really guilt-inducing. And so it is hard to open up to anyone about that, even other adoptive parents. And I've told this story before, but I'm going to quickly say it again. There was a family that was adopting the same time we were. And it was a family we knew like okay through other places. But so, we follow each other on social media and stuff, and we kind of brought our kids home around similar times. They adopted twice as well. And I remember seeing this friend's Instagram stories and seeing how she would post about her child and the fun things she would say they were doing together and the little fun videos she would make and just the way she'd post about her experience. And I remember looking at that and thinking, man, something is seriously wrong with me. Something is seriously wrong with me because I'm over here struggling. I'm not having all these warm and fuzzy feelings and posting these things about my kids, and just like, I wasn't having that same experience. And so I thought, wow, she must be loving motherhood. She must be thriving, and I'm not. So I'm the problem, clearly. And then I ended up getting together with that mom and a couple other adoptive moms one time, and she poured out her heart that she was struggling. She didn't even want to spend time with her kids. She was struggling to be around them. She was looking forward to when they're in bed. And I was like, that's all the same stuff I feel. But I never ever would have known that from her Instagram page and her Instagram stories, right? And I tend to be a little different. I just don't post stuff. If I'm actually really upset or not doing well, I'm just not gonna post. And now I just don't post at all anyway, because I'm just over it. I'm just over Instagram. But when I was struggling, I might post kind of an honest post about how I was feeling or how we were doing or asking for prayer or something. But That's not how a lot of people do it. That's what I've learned. Most people are going to hide that under and they're rarely going to share it, or they're going to share the opposite. And what I realized was for that friend, she was sharing those positive things as a way for her to try to see the positive when she didn't really see it. And so that was really helpful for me to know. So just know social media does not tell a true story. I'm sure we all know that, but I think it's a good reminder nevertheless. And so yeah, not everyone else is not doing better than you. Sure, there's always going to be someone doing better than you, but there's always going to be someone doing worse than you too. That is just how life works. And if you walk away with anything from this video, I want you to just walk away with this. Believe it or not, what you are feeling and experiencing is normal. And don't hear that the wrong way. Normal does not mean easy. Normal does not mean what's wrong with you? Why is this bothering you? Normal just means it's a common experience with adoptive parents. And it is an extremely difficult experience. Please hear me out. Extremely difficult. Nothing easy about it. Nothing quote unquote normal about it in some ways, but it is a common experience and feeling for adoptive parents. But what I mean is there's nothing wrong with you for feeling these things. You're not broken. You're not the worst parent in the whole world. The fact that you're watching this video and watching content like this, trying to say, how can I be a better parent to my kid who's adopted? How can I support them better? How can I, move through these difficult feelings and questions I'm asking myself? You're a good parent. You're doing good things. These are such normal feelings and such normal questions. And you know what? If you are looking for a community of other people like me, like all these adoptive parents I'm talking to that understand what you're going through, you will not want to miss out on joining our Adopt Together community, which is opening up in a few weeks. I only open a few times a year so we can keep the group really close, but please join the wait list by clicking the link in the description box below. Get on the wait list for my adoption support community. We do twice a month video calls where we talk through everything we're going through, the highs, the lows, the questions, the prayer requests. You can post your questions in the group whenever you want, whenever they're in your mind, and people are so good about answering and so kind and understanding in the responses. We just have so many amazing people in this group that I just love it. Sometimes by the time I get to answer the question, people are on it so fast, they're answering so quick, and they're offering encouragement and advice. And it's just amazing to see. It's grown so much. It is honestly my favorite thing that I do with all of Adopt Informed. So I would love for you to join, and I don't want you to miss out on this window. So please join that waitlist below so you can get an email as soon as our doors are open so that you can join this group and get the support you need with other people who understand all of these thoughts and feelings and questions you have. Believe me, we have parents who have gone through almost every experience with their adopted kids you can imagine, and they're more than willing to support one another through it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you really soon. And give yourself some grace, okay? You got this. Have an amazing day.